Hello, and welcome everybody to another episode of r/ProRevenge. My name's Ryan, the official host here at Reddit Voice, and you know what to do. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to stay up to date on all the latest videos. Had my half-brother removed from the will after he stole money from our father with Alzheimer's. Shortly after my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, my formerly estranged half-brother quit his job and moved in to help take care of my dad. Though there really wasn't enough money, it was agreed to pay him around $300 a week to make up for his missing income. During this time, my half-brother abruptly acquired durable power of attorney and usurped medical and financial. My mother and father had separate financial lives. Decisions. Several documents relating to my dad's pension, which were now my half-brother's responsibility, were not turned in on time, resulting in my dad missing out on a one-time payout of $8,000 and lowering his pension payout by about $300 a month. My half-brother then cleaned out my dad's remaining savings, about $3,000, not discovered until about a month later. 6 days later, our father hung himself in the basement. My dad left all of his insurance money and belongings to my mother. Us children were left with only sentimental items. My half-brother was visibly upset and shaking when the will was read. He acknowledged that my mother was receiving everything and left. About a month later, we discovered the missing money. Though he broke no laws because he had power of attorney, we insisted he pay it back, even offered to let him make payments over a 2-year period. He refused, and we have been no contact for 2 years now. Little did he know that he was in my mom's, his stepmother's will, and he would receive half of what is currently a $250,000 estate. I suggested to my mother that she remove him from the will. She did, and I am now the sole beneficiary. He stole $3,000, now only to lose out on $125,000 later. TLDR, half-brother stole $3,000 from sick father only to be removed from the will and miss out on $125,000 later. Okay, this is Ryan speaking here. No offense to the person who wrote this story, but if your last sentence is the same as your TLDR, you probably don't need a TLDR. If you make me solve the problem, it'll cost you money. This happened a while back, actually before Reddit was even thought of and no one had their own portable phone. A local business, auto repair shop, changed their phone number for some reason, and a few months later when my family added a second phone line to the house, guess which number we were given? It wasn't that much of a pain since most of the customer base had the new number, but about 6 months later we started getting calls for this business several times a day. So I finally asked one of the callers where he got the number from. He tells me it's on top of the business's building in 3-foot-high letters. Really? So I drive by that way and the next day, and sure enough, there it is in big blue letters. I look up the current number when I get home and give him a call. Hey, I noticed that you still have your old number on top of your building, and we've been getting a lot of your calls. Would it be possible for someone to correct the sign or just paint over it? This is where I get it told that it's my problem and that they don't have time to deal with it. Click. Oh, okay, now I see. So I figure it won't take long to sort this out, and I start taking appointments. I tell a lady we're having a special on tires. I can get her a complete set for $75. $200 was the average. I get a guy that needs a complete rebuild on his transmission, and how soon can we do it? I tell him that since we aren't very busy right now, if he can get in to the shop by noon, I have a guy that can have it done by 6 p.m. the same day. It'll only cost him $750. Super cheap, by the way. I do this maybe 20 to 30 times over the course of a week or so. The calls become less frequent, and as I drive by the following week, I noticed that the sign is now just plain white. I'm pretty sure that all in all, I probably cost this guy about $10,000 or so in pissed off customers who showed up thinking they had an appointment and a great deal. Take my money, sell me crap, then be prepared to lose your business. So a few decades back, I was involved with a group of guys with a little money, and we wanted something substantial to invest in. We decided to buy a restaurant franchise. I won't even say what kind, as that could identify me. Well, everything was going along swimmingly until my partners backed out. I unfortunately was the face of the group, and my signature was on the bottom lines, so I got stuck with running the place. It soon became apparent that there were a lot of inconsistencies. The big number one was that the sales in the prospectus were nowhere near what was being generated. Then there were other things, customers calling for their regular order. Well, it turned out that my particular franchise had been used for the past several years to deal grass and various drugs. The former manager had made some serious coin and was not happy that I had purchased his place. Well, life is not fun when you've just sunk 6 figures and the likelihood is that you've flushed it down the toilet. However, I was not going to be trifled with. First, I called the accounting firm who signed off on the prospectus. The partner in charge was taken aback. They had never signed off. I presented myself in their offices and spent the next few hours with them and their attorneys. Their name could not be associated with something fraudulent. Next, I wanted my money back, and the chief franchisor told me that they would immediately put mine up for sale, but the market wasn't quite as high as when I bought it, less than 3 months previously. Then the prick had the audacity to demand that I paid up for my last order from the commissary. Something else to consider. I took the price list provided by the central commissary that we as franchisees were compelled to use. Buying fruits, vegetables, cheese, and meat from outside the system would be accompanied by fines from the franchisor. I marched myself back to the accounting firm and asked for a bit of analysis. Turns out commissary prices were from 10 to 300% higher than market. In other words, the franchisor was not interested in food, they were interested in turning around franchises. Well, that little report found its way into the hands of 20 local franchisees. Suddenly, the central commissary was not being used. The district manager starts showing up writing fines. Turns out, the district manager is the guy who was supplying the manager of my franchise. I have him on discarded VHS security tapes selling. So I take the tapes to the accounting firm for secure storage. Then I go to the franchisor's offices. I lay it on the line that I have their district guy selling drugs in my restaurant. They laugh at me until I tell them that I'm the one who supplied the report to the rest of their franchisees. Oh, and by the way, we are starting an action against you. I then showed them that we had placed lions on the building that they owned, their commissary, their homes, and their vehicles. I said I have enough to put you guys in jail. So their mental giants sit me down, write up a little release, and go get me a certified check for every dime I put into the franchise. I agree to release, however they do not realize that the gouging and the evidence is still in the hands of the others. All they succeeded in doing was to get me off the list of owners suing them. Well, the case came to court, and who do you think was on the stand giving a complete rundown? One of them stood up in court and said, "Didn't we pay you to shut up?" No, you refunded me the money you stole. Now they had 19 other guys taking them apart. I heard one of the franchisors cried when they took his Porsche. His wife left his soon thereafter. Refused to give me my money? I refuse to let you make any. I owned a sign company. I received a phone call from someone at a local mall. He was opening a restaurant in the food court. The catch was that he wanted to be open in 2 weeks for Black Friday, the busiest shopping day of the year. I met with him and mall management at the same time so that we could discuss ideas and get approval at the same time to speed up the production. Got everything okayed from his big overhead backlit menu sign, smaller signs on both walls, and signs for both registers. All in all, it was going to be a pretty large order. I typically get a 50% deposit, but the customer said something about international money transfers and the mall management jumped right in to explain that payments were taking a couple of weeks to process, but everything they'd charged him had been paid. Because I had been doing a lot of work in the mall and I was trying to help them get this guy open, I agreed to do it without the deposit. I did the layouts, he approved them, I showed the samples, he approved them. I got everything finished and installed the Tuesday before he needed them. That's when things went downhill fast. He immediately started complaining that the material was wrong, even though he'd seen samples, and it wasn't what he wanted. He then complained that the graphics were wrong, even though he'd approved them. He complained that the prices were wrong, even though they all matched the menu he provided. Wednesday afternoon, I called him again and his wife answered. She cheerfully told me that I could take down my damn signs because they weren't paying for them and they had ordered signs cheaper from someone else, but couldn't get them ready in time, and as soon as the other signs were ready, mine were going in the trash. So, realizing that I'd screwed myself by taking the job without a deposit, I hung everything on her little side comment that I could take down my damn signs. Thursday, I had a delightful Thanksgiving lunch with my family. We watched football, we laughed, we enjoyed the day. I took my wife and kids home, loaded up a ladder, and joyfully went to the mall. I'd done enough after-hours work at the mall that I knew there would be a door open somewhere and people in the large stores were getting ready for the Black Friday crowds. I went in, tossed my ladder over the restaurant counter, and started taking down the signs. A couple of merchants in the mall asked me if the place was already closing. I told them the story, and the next thing I know, they're helping me take down all the signs. In 30 minutes, the place went from looking like a fully opened, ready-to-rock restaurant to looking closed. I went home and slept like a baby. When I turned on my phone at 7:30 on Black Friday, I'd already had 15 missed phone calls from the restaurant owner, his wife, and mall management. I called the mall management and they weren't happy. Told them the whole story, they still weren't happy with me, but they understood. I waited 15 minutes before the restaurant owner called, screaming in the phone demanding that I return with the signs. I politely told him that I needed the full amount plus the cost of reinstallation, plus an extra $50 for working on an off day. He screamed at me and I hung up. He called back once more and demanded that I bring them back and he would pay me the next week. I said no, I needed cash. He screamed at me again, so I hung up. I avoided them all because screw Black Friday, but from what I hear, it was comical. His entire backlit sign was nothing but lit up bulbs. He'd handwritten a menu on an old box and taped it to the front of the counter. Every restaurant in the food court was slammed all day and no one would even take his free samples. He closed mid-afternoon, realizing nobody was going to buy. He went through the entire shopping weekend with no signs and no business. The best part was that 2 weeks later, when his new signs from India finally arrived, they were the wrong size. Screw you, Mr. Restaurant Owner, for ordering signs from me that you knew you weren't going to pay for because you'd already ordered them from someone else. And with that, my friends, we've reached the end of today's video. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like and also subscribe so you can check out all our upcoming videos in the very, very near future. For those of you just checking in or maybe haven't heard the news, in recent videos, we are pretty dang close to 1,000 subscribers, a milestone that would mean a lot to me personally. I've been with this channel since the very first day, and as soon as we can finally hit that monetization milestone, ooh baby, it's gonna be a day for celebration. So, in order to get there quicker, I'm asking you, the viewer, what you think we should do on this channel to help get more subscribers. What type of content do you guys want to see? What type of interactivity do you want from the channel? Let me know and I'll be sure to read these things, as we're maybe even thinking about doing a video reading some of the best and most interesting comments from recent videos we've been doing here on the channel. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host, and I look forward to hearing from you and seeing ya in the next video.